we're still humans at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what work we're doing. We're still humans. We still breathe. We still go the same stuff we go through, but in different ways, in different formats.
Mm-hmm.
Like you might have an anxiety for X, Y, and Z reasons. I might have an anxiety for X, Y, and Z, but it's understanding and coming to the full circle like moment of like, what is my body actually telling me and what do I need to do to change it instead of putting a band-aid on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just keep it steady on the magic. Do my thing, I'm healing, it's fantastic. If I fall, rise automatic. You ain't no now, you know. I'm the one raise myself like a tree from the roots. West side girl, cause she lit in the coast. East side girl when she speaks to the roots. Stay 100 cause she on with the truth. Been there on struggle, know that it pass. Only going up, yeah, the pain don't last. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. This is take off, take off, take off. Shorty like Brandy, fight like Monica. What you know about her? Baby girl rising, wet at the top. Shaking the world, don't expect her to stop. Purpose so great, she get what she got. Follow her step, cause she following God. What you need more, got a heart full of gold. Even at times when it's raining and cold. Ooh, she bout take off. Ooh, she bout.
Hey, y'all. It's your girl, Hannah. But if you are part of the Uprooted Fam, go ahead and call me Rutha. Thank y'all for watching and joining us for our newest segment. Okay, Uproot Your Thoughts. If you need the merch, it is on the website. And you are watching on the Uprooted Network. Of course, y'all, this is the newest segment, and I just kind of really combined all of my favorite pieces of different segments and what y'all have shared with me that has been the most impactful for you. So, in this segment, what we do is really take time to examine our life, examine our thoughts, even sometimes unpack our trauma so we can understand, like, how do we get from the reality we're currently in so that we can get to the place we want to be. And I am a firm believer that what you believe about yourself, you become. And usually, what you believe about yourself is what you see or what you hear. So, if we can use this time to uproot that for you, we can kind of take away those obstacles that are holding you back from the life that you want. And I'm so happy to be bringing on different guests this season because they have just great insight on like where they're at in this journey. They're able to articulate that and how they kind of got through it, different tools and techniques. And I'm just like super excited to bring different people on because we all grow and learn together. And so today I have a very special guest. Some of y'all might be familiar with her if you've seen her do some mental health work in the Tigray community and other places. But I have had the pleasure of being her friends behind the scenes now for a couple years, and it has been cackles and giggles for me. So I'm really excited to bring on my girl Bilen onto the show. Hey.
Hi.
Oh man, this is gonna be so fun. So we have all types of conversations behind the scenes all the time about different mental health things, just things that annoy us in general, or just cackling about our general day. It is just, and you just kind of know people's quirks, and you'll be like, "What you doing right now?" You can just kind of guess with some people, and I just always crack up because Len, and I call her Len. You're gonna hear me say that throughout the show. Always comes with like, so like I'm doing this, like no matter what we're doing, and I always love your energy, and I think it's like you're just the way that you kind of make life lighter has always been so funny to me. So I appreciate that. But I wanted to give you a chance to say hello to the audience and maybe tell them a little bit about yourself.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know where to start honestly, but I guess like you stated, my name is Bilen, but I also go by Len too. Um, I am 28 years old from Dallas, Texas. I'm a Starbucks fanatic. I also do a lot of mental health and community work with people in the Tigray community. And on the side too, I'm just a very sarcastic, giggly, fun person, but you can honestly catch me anywhere depending on the day. Clubhouse, Instagram, work, Starbucks, crumble cookie, library, but that's just
The
me.
cookies. I didn't want to be like, yo, Cookie Monster is for real. Like, I be always cracking up. She's like, I don't know. I'm like, go ahead and get your cookie, girl. You know you want to get the cookie. It's fine.
I just wanted someone to verbally tell me like it's okay.
Yeah. And like if everybody else was being a hater, I was like, let that girl have her cookie. Like, why y'all always just so mad? Like, it's fine. Like, it's because they want one too. That's really what I think it is. I
Facts.
really do. I feel like they hating because they want one too. But don't worry because Lynn be in the gym, okay? So she earns those
Mm-hmm.
cookies.
Get
She
a
be
cookie after
really
the gym.
right. So I always appreciate that. And y'all already know clearly there's always a mental health aspect of the show, and we are continuously actually putting it into practice. So we are starting with a check-in. I hope y'all do this with your friends. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Like, make sure you are checking in with people. So Lynn, tell us in one word or one sentence, how is your heart? Either like currently in this moment, maybe in the past week, or just overall for the season of life that you're in.
I would say pumping. My heart is pumping right
Okay.
now.
Okay, pumping
It's
fast, slow.
honestly, yesterday it was pumping fast. Right now it's pumping slow. I also would say this too, like I had a pretty long week. There's always something to
Mm,
do, always on my feet. Um and just I'm just always on the move. So today it's pumping slow because I'm able to sit down, I'm able to relax, I'm able to actually
mm,
hear my thoughts for today and actually figure
mm.
out like what am I able to do because yesterday I was playing catch up with my heart. Now I'm pretty
Ooh,
like I'm great. I'm chilling, I'm
oh,
cool, I'm rested.
I like that. I like that for two reasons. One, it's like it's the mind body connection and awareness of like, okay, one, my heart is pumping, which tells me I'm alive, right? Like I'm alive and I'm moving. But the way that you're kind of like also like it's pumping fast when I'm on the go, moving in the week. And then you're also being very intentional about like, but I'm also taking rest and like letting it catch up. I hope people caught that because that that is a very useful skill to understand and use in your life. Is like, can you check in? And that's something I've been obviously working on this whole year. With all, I be stretching, girl. I be doing my yoga, and I'm like, oh, how do I feel? Is there tension here? Is there whatever? So I really love that. And I agree. I am on that same wavelength. Before we started recording, I was like, yeah, girl, I'm tired. I'm tired. It has been a long week. But that also leads me to the second part of this check-in, which is what are you giving yourself grace for? Or what would you like to give yourself grace for, maybe in this time that you're slowing down and able to think about it?
The biggest one for me is that it's okay if I didn't finish a task. Because I would
Mm,
always literally, people say I beat myself up. I really fight myself if I didn't finish a task because I always have this
mm,
expectation that if I thought about something, if I started something in general, that I'm going to finish it. And
mhm,
I realized that I don't really have the time of day to finish everything I would like. So it's okay. I can finish it the next day when I'm well rested, when I'm
yeah.
energetic, and I have the energy for it. Because if I don't reach my full potential, sometimes I feel like I am not completed or I'm not like satisfied, but it's okay. We'll be there tomorrow. I'll resume. I will be okay.
Yes. Oh, I like that. Okay, so let's start there. Let's unpack that because I'm on that journey as well, and I get these questions a lot of like, how do you manage that? Like, how do you manage like everything that you have going on? And I feel like the answer is in like kind of what you just shared of being like it's okay to not finish a task. But I know that it's also really hard to get to that place mentally if you're used to being, more on that, like I'm an achiever, because I'm an achiever. Like if y'all took your strengths quest analysis, personality type, whatever, I score high in achiever. And so I noticed that I struggle too, where I'm like, oh my God, I look at my calendar, I'm like, like my to-do list and like my goals, even especially for Uprooted, I'm like, oh my God, there's so much stuff I want to do and I get overwhelmed. And I have to constantly remind myself of that. So for you, kind of like, how did you get to that practice or like understanding? Because it's been a journey for me. I'm really asking for myself too.
You know what, honestly, like if you were to ask me this question years ago, I would always okay, years ago, I would always tell myself, I'm gonna do it. It'll be fine. I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. I'm gonna do it, or I'm gonna take this test and I'll be fine because I just thought like I'm just gonna do it, And then when the
Mm-hmm.
time comes, I've never actually like put it my all, if that makes sense. Cause like in my
Yeah.
mind, I said, I'm gonna do it. I did it. I wasn't really happy. I wasn't satisfied. So I kind of learned how to be okay that like my timing is going to be different for everyone, and it kind of took me a while to realize and understand that I kind of move slow. Really, it's
Mm-hmm.
because I take my time in making sure every minute or every step is okay and it's great before I move on. So if I did something for 1 minute, I make sure, okay, that 1 minute mark, I gave it my all. It's great. Then I moved on to the 2 minute, the 3 minute, the 4 minute. And I just kind of like told myself, like, I'm not really competing with everybody. Like, I'm on my own track. And
Mm-hmm.
so I hope that answered your question because I forgot your question.
No, yeah, yeah. The question was kind of like, how did you get to that mindset of like it's okay to not, complete these tasks, or and I guess answering it too is like adjusting to your pace. Like your pace
Mhm.
needs to be something that you can manage instead of like trying to run somebody else's race. And that, for Nipsey fans, that's very much like that concept of you're running a marathon, right? And you gotta really, you can't run the marathon at somebody else's pace. You're not gonna make it. Like that's just not gonna happen. Like I'm not in that kind of shape. Like we gotta do it differently. And it just kind of also like reminds me of all of the quotes and cliches that you hear of like stay in your lane. And I tell myself that while I'm driving all the time. I'll be like, ooh, just stay in your lane. Like, stay in your lane. Like, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Like, I'm trying to get to my destination. If that person wants to speed past me, feel free. Like, there's just certain, I can see how I've like adopted that mindset in everything now, where, I don't know if you had like a moment where you realize like, oh, I have to change the way I'm doing this. But as you
Oh,
were
I definitely
talking,
do.
oh, okay, you share yours and I'll share mine.
Because I always like, I feel like it's in our culture too that it's embedded where it's like we have to be successful and this is
Mm-hmm.
what success looks like. Like they paint the picture for us. When I say they, I mean my parents, my families. Like you have to be going to this specific path,
Yeah.
right? So I'm like, I'm pushing myself, I'm pushing myself, I'm pushing myself, but like success to them is different for success for me, and I kind of took me a while to really understand like what is that specific definition for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
um I went to college, I got my masters and everything, and I kind of realized that I'm not really happy with this specific population. Like I don't want to go to like this specific clinical route. I kind of want to
Mm-hmm.
go a little like pivot somewhere else. And I kind of just realized like over time, like I'm pushing myself, I'm trying to perfect myself. I have this expectation, but it's like I didn't really have this expectation for myself. And I kind of realized that, like you stated, the marathon and things like that, like this is my own path. And this
Mm-hmm.
is how I'm going to achieve it and be successful in this path. So, and I'm still on this journey till this day where it's like, okay, well, I realize my identity. I realize this is a path that I want to take. Great. Even that took a year. That's
Mm-hmm.
perfectly like that's perfectly okay. That's fine. As long as I'm
Yeah.
working towards something and I'm going up the hill, right? Because I notice
Yeah.
sometimes we kind of like drive straight. We're driving
Yeah.
straight, but don't we want to kind of pivot up and up and
Yeah.
up and up and things like that? And so it's just understanding like what does success means like for me. And it kind of took me a while to like realize that. And like here I am. Now I'm enrolled in school and I have 7 courses left and I'll be done.
Hey, snaps to that. Okay. We love that. No, I hear you. I feel like I had to have a couple of what we like to call with some of my friends a come to Jesus moment.
Mhm.
Like had to have a few of them where I was like, yo, why am I so burnt out? Like that'll tell you you going in the like listen, if you get for me, this is what I've understood. If you get to burnout, there's several reasons, right? Like one, you're doing way too much and you're going way too fast, you know? And then the other thing for me is like you're doing a lot of things that you really don't need to be doing, right? Like you have no interest in, you're like killing yourself trying to accomplish. This is also like echoing what you're saying, like this is somebody else's idea of what you should be doing, but you're not good at it, nor do you like it. Right? Like there's just certain like there's so many things that fall under that for me, but I realized that and I was like, I who am I living for? Another way to say like what you're talking about is like defining success for yourself. And then I had to realize like in that definition for me, I was like, well, who am I doing this for? Is this for me? Is this for other people? Like what is this serving? Do I even feel good about it? Like right, like you start to ask yourself like those reflection questions. And I feel like the catalyst moment for me was like in grad school. I always kind of had like I've had bouts like I'm telling you with like burnout, with stress. Like I remember there was like a semester of school when I was in undergrad where my eye wouldn't stop twitching. And I always tell people this. I'm like literally my eye wouldn't stop twitching and I had like a yawn that would not go away. Like I would be yawning like 5 or 6 times an hour, like just and people are like, "Are you okay? Are you tired?" I was like, "Bro, I'll be drinking coffee and still yawning." I'm like, I slept 8 hours. I'm still yawning because I literally could not rest. Like my body, even when I was sleeping, I wasn't resting, right? So I kept doing that. And then I remember in grad school, I was trying to write like some paper and I had a full on anxiety attack. And I had never had one in my life. I was like, what is this? It was like I couldn't breathe right. I was hella shaky. Like I just felt like I was out of control in my body. And luckily for me, I have like the practices, like I understand the breathing exercises, and I was able to like identify what was happening to me. But I was still in shock because I was like, this is happening to me like at this point like I'm like I literally practice mental health. I like learn it. I teach it sometimes. Like how is it that I'm experiencing this and it's like, oh, you're still human, girl. Like you are still human and you still got work to do. And I was like, yeah, nah, we got to reevaluate this whole thing. And what like even in my master's program had to reassess like again what I was doing and I was like, all right, this is getting ridiculous. Like this is getting that's what I felt like. I was like, oh my God, this is getting ridiculous. What am I doing in life?
We're still humans at the end of the day. It doesn't matter what work we're doing. We're still humans. Humans. We still breathe. We still go the same stuff we go through, but in different ways, in different formats. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like you might have an anxiety for X, Y, and Z reasons. I might have an anxiety for X, Y, and Z, but it's understanding and coming to the full circle like moment of like, what is my body actually telling me and what do I need to do to change it instead of putting a band-aid on it.
Mm-hmm. Which is why I liked your answer to like how's your heart, because the fact that you were like aware of what your body was telling you. Because I think like for so long, like in those examples I was giving, and I'm sure that you can probably relate to it in some way, or like even your clients, like right, that like we ignore what our body is telling us until we're like all the way sick, you know, and like completely achy. And that's something that I had to realize that, oh, like that headache that you had, that was a warning sign, you know? Like now it's a migraine. Now you're nauseous. Now like you're in bed for 3 days because you can't like function. Like that was your body trying to tell you a week ago that you were burning out, you know? So I don't know if you have any kind of examples of
Oh, I
maybe
sure
things that
do.
you had to learn.
I sure do. Yo, when I was in grad school, right? Because I have my
Mhm.
bachelor's in social work, and then I have my master's in mental health and substance abuse, right? So
Mhm.
we were transitioned to telehealth, for our internship, like working from home and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
Why am I getting so anxious when I'm about to meet all these clients online, right? The work
Mhm.
is easy. It was just more for me. I'm getting anxious.
Mhm.
Supervision, I'm getting anxious. No appetite. Literally, I had no
Oh.
appetite until like late at night. I'll have an appetite.
Mhm.
Headaches, tired, yawning, and things like that. I'm just like, okay, what am I doing wrong? I'm doing great in the classes, right? I'm doing
Mhm.
great in the internship, but it's like
Mhm.
every time I would come and do my internship or just like the program in general, my body's having a hard time like being like comfortable with the idea or the concept of it. I'm just like, I'm supposed to be like enjoying it. I'm supposed to be having fun. I'm supposed to like my body's supposed to be excited to be here and stuff like that, but I'm
Yeah.
having the complete opposite of it. And I'm like, this is
Mhm.
just not okay. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm doing all this work, I graduated and stuff like that. I'm having a hard mentally, I'm having a hard time trying to figure out like what should I do? Like should I get this job? Oh, I don't feel comfortable. Every job that I
Mhm.
applied for, I feel like I was not comfortable. Like I felt like I was like insecure with it, but my body is just
Mm.
telling me and my mind is just telling me like this is not the right path for me, but I'm literally forcing myself to do it just to meet
Yeah.
other people's expectation when I'm not even meeting my own expectation to it.
Ooh. Ooh. That's a yes. That was a word. I felt very seen. I was like, yes. That right there. Like that feeling and like some of the words that came up for me, like when you were saying like you didn't feel comfortable, was like some of the thoughts that I have is like, am I qualified to be here? And
Mhm.
like I'm still second guessing like what you're saying too is like I have all the accolades, I've done everything else that all my peers have done, and I'm still sitting here like, am I qualified to be having this conversation? Am I qualified to be this person for right now? Like in that like that insecurity and that voice like really does some damage, like really, because you felt it in your body, and it's like, yeah, like your thoughts literally affect the way your body functions. And yo, that's why we're here to uproot them, right? Because it's just not healthy for us. Like, and it's also like, for me, maybe something that came up, or maybe I don't know if it came up for you, is what I meant to say, is this idea of, damn, like it doesn't go away, because I felt that kind of nagging voice in the back of my head all throughout life, because you always hear like, well, you're black, work twice as hard, you're a woman, you got to work twice as hard, like, and I tell people that's so dangerous. Stop telling us that. Like, no, because my peers are C-level students and they're doing
Yeah.
just fine, and they're like, trust me, they are they ain't nothing special, right? Like, I ain't trying to throw people under the bus, but it's just like, yo, how am I over here busting like my tail to get these straight A's to be perfect, and they're literally barely getting by? That doesn't even make sense. Like the standard like is so high, like it's just ridiculous. Like, and that voice just kind of carried on through everything. Even doing this podcast, I had to keep checking myself. Like, am I qualified to be doing this? Like, am I, like, I'm giving out all this like not necessarily like, yeah, advice, but also just information, and I'm like, yo, like I felt responsible for everybody's outcomes, and I was like,
Mhm.
oh, like it scared me
'Cause
for a
you
long time.
experience it. You experience it, you walk through it. You
Hmm.
like we both have master's degree, but in different ways. Like yours is
Hmm.
psychology, is that correct?
Mine is organizational leadership.
Oh, see, I'm on.
Yeah.
That's what I like to ask.
Yeah,
See,
that was
but here's
okay.
the thing. But here's the thing, though. Like, you have your degree, right? You learn
Mhm.
specific tools in your tool belt that to walk you through it, right? Same thing for
Mhm.
me. I have specific tool belts. No, specific tools in this tool belt. No,
Yeah.
it's toolbox. You see
No,
where my
you
mind is
got both. You can have both. You can
at?
have both.
Okay.
Yes.
I never heard of a tool belt before, but
Yeah,
now I know.
we're not hip, but them construction people, they be having
But
it.
like, that made me chuckle.
I just have to no, I have to laugh because like my brain. So the new job that I have, we actually have construction workers, right? Like they're learning construction, so they actually like I had to visualize. I said, no, they do have a belt. They have a
No,
box too.
now you're telling me. I'm like, but you know what? Actually, we could spin it around with this one because
Okay, come
you
on,
have
bring
your
it.
toolbox, right? And
Mhm.
then you have your tool belt, right?
Okay, I see where you're
Right.
going.
Listen. So like you're gonna walk around with your tool belt to be like functional, right? To be flexible, to move stuff in case you need something.
Mhm.
So you have that belt on, right?
Mhm.
You put specific things in there to help you maneuver and walk yourself to
Yep.
point A to point B, right? But
Mhm.
then you can go home, unpack it with your box, your toolbox, and see like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I'm gonna put my communication back in the box. I'm gonna put like my cognitive thinking in the box. I'm gonna put my
Mhm.
notebook, my pen in the box because I had it out for the rest of the day because I needed to help me understand like what is going on and what do I need to help me
Mm.
like go through the day and manage the day.
Yep.
Honestly, sometimes like this is not silly, but like I told myself it's silly, but it's not. I don't have time to deal with this right now at 8 o'clock in the morning. Let me come
Mhm.
back at 6 p.m. where I actually can like go through my day, do what I need to do at 6 p.m. Let me go to my bed and let me just unpack this. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna push it off, let me push it off at that same day so I can unpack it. Like, why am I feeling this way? Why do I
Mhm.
feel really anxious and stuff like that? Why does my feet hurt? You know, because I'm
Right.
putting so much pressure on my feet all
Yes.
day, every day, and I'm just like, I can't do this. And so
Yeah.
like you said, you just kind of like realize and like, okay, something has to go and something has to change. And sometimes,
Yeah.
those changes are hard because yeah, you're
Ooh.
letting yourself down, but you're not really letting yourself down. You're also dealing with the public aspect of it too, which is like, so why? Like, you can't do this. Like, no, you're wasting your
Mhm.
time. But really, you're wasting not you're wasting their time, honestly, but you're not really
Yeah.
wasting your personal time either. But
Mhm.
sometimes what we have to do is really, really get uncomfortable because I keep saying this, you have to be uncomfortable before you get
Every
comfortable.
every
And
day.
that's gonna be hard. Yes,
Every
every
day.
day.
Every day. I have to like I always have to throw that in there like every day, guys. Every day. Because people think that it's like, "Oh, okay, I fixed it." You know. No, there's like gonna be another I'm gonna keep going with the toolbox and the tool belt because I like how you did that because I do that too. I'm like, oh no, I can still make this work. We're gonna work our way through this communication skills, right? Because we're always trying to help people understand. I literally um there was something in that was super rich that I want like to kind of drive us home with. You
Mhm.
switch out tools for the different seasons or the different projects that you're taking on, right? And so even like now I have to remember too, it's like, oh yeah, I know these things, but it's like, oh, I haven't used that tool in like 3 seasons. So now I got to go back and pick it up, but it might take me a little bit of time to like remember how to use it and to be comfortable and like skilled at it, right? So you can have all the tools in the shed all the time, but it doesn't mean that you know how to use all of them all at once. Like it's really exhausting. And I also like the part that you're saying too, like you unpack it at the end of the day, right? Or for some people it might be at the end of the week. And I also like think in that there's richness because if we're talking about how we manage ourselves, how we're balancing our lives, you can be accountable to yourself. You're not saying I'm not aware that there's something I need to unpack. Like it's like, no, I am aware, but I'm also aware of the reality that's in front of me, and I'm gonna manage what I can and then I will make time to manage these other things. Like, you're not putting it off like I'm never gonna get to it. It's like, I see you, I'm gonna get to it. Like, and I think for me at least, there's a release in that. Like, I release stress when I tell myself, like, no, I'm not ignoring you. Like, this is obviously all in my head. Like, I'm talking to myself, like, I'm not ignoring you.
Press
I see.
conference.
Yeah.
It's a press conference.
Oh,
That's
I
what you're
like
having.
that. That's a like, okay, teach me some terms. Yes, I'll be having a press conference with myself, and I'll be like, baby girl, we're gonna get to this later. I know there's something bothering you. I could feel it. You ain't gotta keep kicking me. Like, I could feel it. Like, let me finish what I gotta finish, and we will handle this later on. Like, we ain't going no, I
It's
be
that
having to
inner
tell myself,
child. That inner
yes, like,
child. Let's soothe it
we're
right
not
now.
going nowhere. Yes, talk about it. The inner child, she be really like bossy, okay? Bossy.
Yo, mine is so sarcastic. Little Belen back in the day. Okay, I
Oh
hear you.
gosh.
It's okay. Sweetie, let's do this first, and then this, and then we'll talk about this, okay? I hear
Hmm.
you. I understand you. I value you. We'll talk about this later.
Yes, affirmations. Yes.
I
Yes.
have a question
Okay.
though.
Come, go ahead.
So, so I was thinking, like,
Hmm.
it was last week. I think I was outside. I was thinking, I saw myself and I was like, okay, I understand our parents were kind of like in survival mode with the circumstances given to them, right?
Hmm.
Rushing, running, trying to escape, right? Always
Yeah.
like in fear, escape, anxieties passing over, and things like that. Where it's like, okay, we can't talk about your feelings or emotion. Like, you have to succeed, you have to be successful, and things like that, and just pushing and going really, really fast. And I'm thinking to
Hmm.
myself, okay, this is actually showing up to me, always being rushed. I have to be successful, I have to do
That
X,
part.
Y, and Z. And I'm just like, okay, you know what? Like, this is why I'm feeling like this. This is why I felt like I have to hurry up and complete something that I'm not
Hmm.
really satisfied with. So I'm just like, okay, well, I think I'm having like a little like Jesus moment, like coming to terms and understanding that, like, okay, well, I'm feeling like this is because my parents were escaping, were refugees in a camp and things like that. And
Yep.
so I feel like they're kind of projecting in a way where they want me to be successful because they weren't given that same opportunity, to
Hmm.
finish school, to be successful, to have the lives that they wanted, but that was kind of taken away with the circumstances given to them. And
Yeah.
so I understand that they're being hard on me to have a specific degree, to have a PhD, to be a doctor and things like that, because they weren't given that opportunity and they would like that for me. And I have to understand myself, like, I don't have to yell at them when I feel like they're trying to like get me, going to help me like pump
Yes.
the brakes or like pump my heart even more. Like, it's okay, come on, Blend, you can do this, you can do this, you can do this.
Hmm.
When they just want the best for me, and I have to understand, like, I need to watch my tone. And that's something I'm still working on, when I feel like someone is like micromanaging me when they're trying to help
Mm.
me out. And I understand that, if I just sit there, I think there's this moment I learned in school with the ABCs of the action or the antecedent, the behavior, and the consequences, right? And so, like, sometimes
Yeah.
I
And
just
for
feel
people
like,
who don't know ABC though, that's a behavioral as a behavioral technique and understanding. So, Len's background, you're doing, because we didn't really cover that, so they might be like, "What is the
oh
ABC?"
yeah, I
Len is a
forgot.
behavioral therapist, if I'm saying that correctly, and you're working with children on the autism spectrum.
hmm
There you
I
go.
forgot I
For
did that
people
too.
Yeah, yeah, she busy, y'all. I just had to slow her down because I was like, she gonna say that, and they're gonna be like, what the hell's the ABC? So when you're a behavioral therapist, if you think about like autistic children and their speech development, their mobility, just like all the different things that like kids are, you take for granted that they're just developing naturally as they age. Usually, if they're on the spectrum at some point, developmentally, it's not happening in that traditional way, and they could have delays for whatever reasons, right? That's why it's a spectrum. Like, they're not all the same. And so when you're doing behavioral therapy, she's talking about the ABC method because this is how we observe a behavior and create like a treatment plan and a program to help them overcome whatever deficiency. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So you're talking about you have to stop and remember your own ABCs, like in the moments with your parents where you're like, ooh, what is happening? I'm mad. I'm about to cuss them out. Like, let me pull it back.
My consequences, like my
Yes,
consequences, I'm always yelling. I'm always like being mad and stuff like that. When the behavior of it is like they're just telling me like, hurry up, pick up the pace, you know? And
yeah,
right before that, I'm just like, I could be in bed just relaxing
that
because I
part.
need like time for myself. And they come in, like, oh, you need to actually read a book. And I'm just yelling when I need to sit there and I need to understand like they're telling me something, but they're also like helping me at the same time. And I feel like sometimes like we kind of like rush to the consequences of things with not understanding the behavior of it as well.
That part.
So that's really important too. Not just with
Yeah.
like the population that I work with, but I just feel like with people in general, if we take the time to understand like our function of behavior, I feel like
Mhm.
our consequences in life would be a little bit more positive, I would
Yeah,
say.
and I think you so I think what you were trying to like understand in that moment, or like what you were just unpacking through, is that because you understand the A, right? Like the what did
Yeah.
you say that I was about to say the action, but like
You can say
the
action or
antecedent.
antecedent. Yeah.
Okay, and for people who don't know what antecedent is, like the what was, oh my God.
Action before the behavior.
Thank you.
Or
I
like
was
what
about to
happened
say
before.
I almost said something completely different right now because another word popped in my head. But because you understand that part, right? Like it helps you understand like contextually where that behavior is coming from. And then in that moment, you are also able to separate it personally from offending you, right? Because it had nothing to do with you. Because I think where people get stuck, especially for us in that example, so kids, children of immigrants, right? First generation of any sort, refugees, whatever, like you're gonna have this kind of barrier sometimes of understanding your parents, right? Like they come from a whole completely different background, especially like culturally, everything is just so different for them, and we don't really have that context sometimes for why they act that way. But like you gave that context, like you were able to like connect the dots of they were refugees. I had to have this conversation with my parents and with my uncles, like with other people in the community when they asked me about like parenting things with kids. And again, I don't even have kids yet, but like, listen, I still got the knowledge, so I share it.
No,
Like,
you have the knowledge. You have
yeah,
the tool
yeah, the
belt, and
tool,
the
yes,
toolbox.
that part.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Hanna, just interrupting you for just a little moment to remind you, if you have not, go check out the website uprootednetwork.com. Whether you're new here or you've been following for a long time, you know that this is a space for those of us who have been having to navigate life very completely differently than the cultures we might be a part of. So whether that means you're an immigrant, maybe you're the first generation to change the narrative, maybe you're an entrepreneur, you're a dream chaser in some type of way, and you're believing for a better life. So obviously Uprooted Network resonated with you, and we have been scaling out services, trying to build this into a bigger community for you all. And also, I'm launching all types of management consulting services and personal and professional group coaching this summer. I really have a big heart for those of you who are students, those of you who maybe haven't had an opportunity to get this type of development before. I'm going to be offering it at a very reasonable price because you know what? I want to knock down those obstacles and barriers. I try to do it the way that everybody else does, and it wasn't working. So we're gonna do it the uprooted way. I want y'all to make sure go check out the website uprootednetwork.com, and now you can go back to your episode.
I do have that. So I'll be telling them, I was like, all right, well, listen, it makes sense. You left a horrific situation where for you all, it literally was you either stay on this path or you die. right?
Pretty
And we're
much.
not trying to be dramatic at all, right? For like I want to like demystify and also like stop making this whole immigrant pillage as some sexy adventure, because it was not, right? It was a terrifying and a scary adventure that most of us at 15, 16, 18, 20, 23, 24, whatever age, we're not thinking about that village. None of y'all are trying to walk across the US, right? Y'all not trying to do that, especially not as a Black person. Like there are
Mm-hmm.
some states you are definitely not going to try to walk through, right? Like we got to think about the pilgrimage that like immigrants take to leave. They don't leave because they love things. They leave because they have to. Like their safety is in question. Their their lack of opportunity, right? Like they're seeing people like sick or dying for various reasons. Like it does, like it's not sexy. And I think that like people try to make it seem like, oh, they just want to leave. Like, no. Would you want to? Most people don't like moving. Most people don't like change. So why would they willingly go try to change their entire life, right? So when you start to logically piece those things together, the little you can start to like unpack and separate out that like this was not personally about me. They had like a horrific experience where if they didn't complete the task of leaving, right? If they didn't do what they needed to do, they might not have had food for the day, right? They might not have gotten home, right? Like they saw their friends literally passing away. Like I had this conversation with my uncle because he's very conservative, and he's like, no, I don't like, he doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't really like party, he do a lot of things, right? And he's like, because he saw like that correlation for the people who went that route as a coping mechanism for the trauma that they were going through. And I want people, don't let that fly over your head. Those were coping mechanisms for the trauma that people were going through. Okay. He saw how their lives took a turn for the worse. So even though they were okay and they might have survived, the quality of their life just diminished, right? So for him, he equates all of those things with like death. So when he sees his son behaving in any way that isn't like academic, which isn't whatever, like he just like goes into lecture mode and controlling and the micromanaging that you're talking about. And I was like, yeah, because you're parenting out of fear. And when you're parenting out of fear, all you're doing is projecting fear onto your child. And no wonder why we all have anxiety, because we are afraid of our future. Like literally, we are afraid of our future because they were afraid of their future. So like I like that you broke that down, and like hopefully that helps somebody understand, right? Like this is what it means to uproot your thoughts, because you're thinking like maybe like they're just overachievers themselves, or they want whatever, like they just want you to be the best because they want to show off to the community, right? Because that's how, at least what I thought, that's at least
Oh
what I
no,
thought, right?
no, that's that's the whole other conversation.
And we could go there next, right? Because that's what I kept thinking. And not that it isn't a little bit true, but when you also understand that whole other context of why they are acting that way, and if you can articulate it to them a little bit softer, it's not going to happen the first time. It's going to take a couple times, right?
Multiple times, yeah.
Like at least there is now a conversation of understanding between the two, of like, yo, I get it. I know you want these things for me, but also you're driving me nuts. Like it is okay to sit down and relax. Like take a nap. It's okay. Take a nap, cuz they also never had people let them relax. So they don't know how to do that for you, right? Like it's weird. Like our culture is so strange, and I think a lot of like indigenous cultures are this way, where we treat our guests so well, like we're so hospitable, like, and we're so considerate of like, oh, you must be tired, do you want anything, would you like to take a nap, do you need this, do you need... and like it's like, okay, but what if we did that to ourselves?
They need to offer it to themselves first before they offer it to other people. I also was observing because I like to observe people and
Mm-hmm.
just, that's just me.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
I
that's
noticed
what
when
happens
I
when you
went,
do psych.
I also was looking at it and I was like, okay, well, why is it when I go to the elders' household and I always see them clean? When they're mad, they clean. When they're
Mhm.
stressed, they clean. And it
Mm.
took me a while, but I realized that that's also how they cope too. Like the
Mhm.
mothers, they clean, 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 clean because they always want to be prepared for whoever comes into their house, right?
Yeah.
So it's like they're always trying to like get up and get ahead and cook and clean and everything. And then I noticed like at the end they actually like, okay, you know what? I did everything I need to do in case something happens. So now I can actually sit down and relax. I also noticed too, not all, but majority of them will fall asleep in the living room. If you
All
notice
the
that
time.
too.
Every
Yeah.
bro, I be having to tell my mom because I moved back to the Bay after like grad school and everything, and I was like, Mom, go to sleep. Like, why you always just on the couch? Like, it's wild. Every time, like she be watching her little dramas or whatever, like whatever
My mom too.
TV, yeah. And then she'll have her boon right in front of her. I was like, how you just drank the boon and knocked out on the couch? Like, that's wild. Wild. I be telling her addiction. All the moms are gonna be like, what? Because they like to tell us that we're addicted to things, right? And I was like, what do you
Yeah, and
think
they have
Buna is?
withdrawals. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, you drink coffee how many times a day? You get a headache, right? When you don't have it? Okay. Yeah, that's called addiction. Thank you very much. I'll be like, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Like, don't tell me about, oh, you do this all the time, you do that all the time. No, baby girl, like, you drink Buna every day, 3 times a day.
My
Like,
mom,
what do you mean?
my mom will tell me, "You don't know what you're talking about." Yeah, I do. Look at the DSM.
Don't you love that? Thank you. Oh God, don't you love that? But also, like, that goes back to us talking about we sometimes got to fix our tone. Because I'm like, what'd you send me to school for if I don't know nothing? I'm confused. Why do I have to get a second degree if I don't know anything? Like,
Oh,
what
because
do
you're
you want
not
me
a
to do with
doctor.
that?
That's why. You're not a
It's
doctor or a
nuts.
lawyer.
It is nuts. Like, if we're putting them in the ABCs and just observing that, it's like, yo, yeah. I'm with you, sis.
But
I'm trying not to
also,
laugh at
too,
all the
like,
scenarios in my head.
if we're talking about the ABCs too, like, okay, now we understand the behavior of it. Now the consequences is like we don't want to talk about it. We, kind of like start to disengage more and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, we know what's the conversation, right? We know
Hmm.
like how we behave of it. And now we're gonna try to avoid it. So I'm trying to avoid them. They're gonna try to avoid me. And then that's where also too the family dysfunction comes from too as well. So
Hmm.
it's like we also have to, it's not our responsibility to not prepare, but like to repair our parents, but at the same
Hmm.
time we can show up for them, but we also have to show up for ourselves as well. But I feel like we have to show up for ourselves first before we show up for other people. It's
Yeah,
just, it's a lot,
it's
but
a
you know what,
cycle.
at the end of the day, just do the best that you can, be well aware, and honestly just move forward in life. Try not to be
Yeah.
stuck.
Listen, one thing I'll never be is stuck. Like, you might have me down for a season, but I will always get back up. Like, all right, let's try something else because that didn't work. Let's do something else because this ain't it. Like, I have that
Hmm.
trait in me, and I notice a lot of people don't have that. Where I'm like, ugh, this is gonna be rough. It's gonna be a little annoying. Like, even this week is like the first week of a transition for me, um, going back into like working for someone, right? Like, that's new again for me. Also, just my mental of I feel differently about myself, and I realize this is going to sound very weird to some people, but I didn't have the traditional trajectory of my peers, right? So, yeah, I did go to grad school, but I was also helping raise a teenage child at the same time, right? And I was living a very suburban mom, like, well, technically cousin, but like role. And so I've done a lot of non-traditional things with like my degree path and what I've chosen to do for work, and then with this podcast, right? So like I've been completely all over the place where I'm now in a season where it's like, is this what it feels like when moms talk about coming back to the workforce after being away for a couple years? Because that's really what I feel like right now. where I'm
That
like,
transition,
is rough.
and you gotta adjust too.
Hmm. And so
Yo, I
in this
can't wait,
season,
Hannah. Oh
yeah,
no,
say
you
it
go
again.
ahead. I was gonna put a little comment. You go ahead. I was gonna
Go
put a
ahead.
little comment in there. It's
Feel
like
free, feel
that.
free. I
It's similar.
remember.
It's it's similar in a way where it's like our moms are always telling us we got food at home. We got food at home. Like just come home and stuff like that. And now it's like we're busy. We're really busy, right? We're out
Hmm.
eating, spending time outside, but it's like come inside the house. There's food at home, there's nutrition at home. Like it's
Hmm.
okay. Like just come inside the almost cuss too, but come inside the
You're
house.
allowed to. It's okay. It's adult programming. No, that is, yeah. I have to, like, in this season, because it's so much for me to like manage and juggle. And also it's the first time in a long time that I'm reprioritizing myself, right? And that transition has been happening in front of y'all, actually. Like, if we're being all the way honest, like right before I started recording Uprooted, I had went on a let it go tour for myself. And I've said this before on the show, but essentially the process that you were just talking about, Len, in terms of like what we really can control is ourselves. Like, we really got to nurture ourselves first so that we can show up in these relationships differently, because we can't control our parents, we can't control other people, but if we can manage our own emotions, if we can understand our own boundaries, like, I'm not going to even engage in certain conversations with people. Like, when people tell you like, "Oh, I've never seen that side of them," I was like, because they don't feel safe bringing it out around you. That's
Right, yeah.
that's really what it comes down to, right? And so in this season for me, and what, like I said, you guys have been watching, is like in that time period of where I was like, yo, I need to reprioritize myself because this is ghetto. So like grad school, anxiety attack, graduation. And then I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start a business. Like, I know what I want to do now. But I was like, I need a break. I was like, I need a break. I've been going like hard for, I finished under 2 years, my grad program. Like, I didn't take breaks. Yeah, I did not take breaks. I finished in a year and a half. I went through winter and summers. So I
You
did
took the
not take a
traditional
break.
route
Mhm.
in 2 years?
Mhm. Yeah,
Hannah.
I know. Why do you think I had an anxiety attack? So for people who have not been to grad school, there's different types of programs, right? So like what Lynn is talking about is I went through it's a traditional 2-year program, and it's a quarter school. So those of you who know, quarter schools go way faster than semester. And so you got to be like quick and on top of your projects, right? So I started in like spring, summer or whatever, and then I just didn't take a break. So the longest break that I had was like winter break when school was closed,
Mhm.
which was like a month. And I felt so fantastic in that month. I was like, oh, I can breathe. Like, because other than that, I was like in school, working, still taking care of my cousin and managing the house, right? So I literally, that's why I felt like, even though I wasn't like, oh, I'm not, I would never take the place of somebody's mother. So I never want to disrespect that. But I was playing the role, like I was feeling not the role, I was taking care of the responsibilities that she would have had to take care of, right? So there was like a lot of all of those things happening. Finished grad school really quickly. So I took off. So basically there's 6 months that I could have probably had some like extra like breathing room if I would have took a real summer off. It would have been nice. But I did not do that because the overachiever in me was like, you already took a long break. If you don't finish this program, if you keep taking these breaks, you're just not going to finish it. And
Yeah.
so I pushed myself too hard, and I learned, right? Like, I learned, and that's why I can tell you guys this now. And so I'm just trying to save somebody. If you're in grad school now, it's okay. Take a quarter, take a semester, take
Mhm.
whatever it is, whatever breaks normally people are given is for a reason. Take it off. because it is
Mm-hmm.
a lot. And so I did all that, and then got to the end. I was like, I need a break. I'm like, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I gained 50 pounds over the course of like, yeah, over the course of like probably 2 years. I was like dealing with all that, like all of the ailments that come with that because I had PCOS, so my symptoms were always flaring. My anxiety was through the roof, like, and then I was going through different seasons of mood swings because that is a side effect of having PCOS, right? So I literally had to make that transition um, of like, okay, I need to focus on myself. So I actually originally was supposed to like I was gonna take a couple months off. Then another trauma and tragedy happened in our family when my cousin passed, and I was like, that was December of 2018, 2017. I'm like, I'm mixing up my timeline now. Whatever year I graduated, because like COVID done messed up all my timeline. So that happened. Oh no, it must have been 2019. Yeah, because it was right before COVID. And then flash forward, I was supposed to leave, go out of the country, go to Africa, do some exploring. Then COVID happened. So then everything just gets shut down. I was like, oh, I guess I have to deal with myself now. And then
Mm-hmm.
Uprooted was born out of that. So y'all have literally watched me. I only had a few months head start on everybody else, right? But y'all have literally been watching me go through this evolution of reprioritizing myself and figuring it out through Uprooted as kind of a vehicle because I had to keep facing myself every day in order to do this show. And now that I'm at this place, y'all are like, how do you have all these healthy relationships? Because I've been doing therapy with y'all for coming on 3 years. Like, I've had to deal with myself every day for 3 years. That's the only reason why I can have these conversations with folks, and like I have these relationships with my family and my friends, and my circle has changed over time because some people were not like really supportive on my journey, and they had to be removed, right? And
It's
others, they
important.
didn't have. Right. And I'll let you talk on that too. Is like some people had to be removed and others just had to have a recategorization of like where you fit into my life because you can't influence me in these certain ways and I don't feel safe with you to show up in these certain ways. So that was, I was just trying to give them like what that looks like in your actual life, what you said, because it sounds like a lot, and it can be, but it's not all at once. It's over time. But you said you I think you had something you wanted to share with that that
No,
last note that I said.
I was like, yeah, I feel you, because I was like, yeah. Then I started to think, and I was like, uh-huh, yep, mm-hmm, exactly. But also too, like, change of environment is important. Change of
Mhm.
environment is really important because you kind of like the relationship you built with people years ago is where you're at years ago, right? You're not going to be the
Mhm.
same person 2015, 2018. You're going to change. Change is good. Change is healthy. For the most part, change is healthy, right? So, of course, you
Mhm.
want to accommodate to that change of where you are currently, right? And
Yeah.
unfortunately, people aren't going to grow the same rate as you're going to grow, right?
Yeah,
And so, as
sadly.
how is that going to help you if your growth is like right here, right? And then you have people that have maybe certain habits that you can't really accommodate to your current growth level, right? So it's like you're
Mhm.
gonna have to let them go because, like, you're a flower, right? How are you gonna be around people that are not going to water you, they're not going to show up for you, they're not going to like shower for you? So it's healthy to let people go. Don't get me wrong, letting people go can be a little difficult, but like, you're going to have to
Very.
show up for yourself, you're going to have to grow, you're going to have this growth. And sometimes change of environment is all could also be moving, that's good.
Mhm.
Alcoholics, right? People who are dealing with substance abuse of some sort, right? They can't be in the same environment because they're going to continue that bad habit, so they're
Mhm.
gonna have to change it and go somewhere else that's going to accommodate to them. During
Yep.
that healing process, during that time where they're working on themselves, they're gonna more likely be around people that are on the same path as them to help
Exactly.
them through this, to help them navigate this. I myself am known to like if I'm not happy of like where I'm at, where I came to a realization that you know what, XYZ is just not fulfilling me right now. They're not tending to me, they're not showing up to me, and so it's better if I just remove myself from them, and I'm glad I made that decision. Like, I'm really
Hmm.
glad I made that decision because I don't like making bad habits and still being mad that I'm not where I want it to be, like, where I wanna be at. And so
That
it's
part.
just understanding, like, let me just kind of write, like, a I'm sure you know what motivational interviewing is, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So basically, it's like you're gonna write a list, guys, of like the pros and cons of doing something or something, right? And then the pros and cons of not. Write down that list,
Mm-hmm.
the pros and cons of the do's and the don'ts. Maybe the pros and cons of going to Trader Joe and the pros and cons of going to Target. Whatever list that you guys are dealing with, write a pros and cons list. And when you're done looking at that list, you're gonna actually visually like see, oh, like, is this the best thing for me or is it not the best thing for me? You can easily like make your decision like right then and there. I do that with my clients as well. And sometimes I do that with my kiddos. I do that with myself as well. I do that with my dad. I do that with everybody because I actually have to see if this
Yeah.
is going to benefit me or not.
Hmm. And the longer you do it, or the more you do it, the quicker you do it. Like I do it in my head now, right? And I don't even notice myself do it because it's an ingrained practice. Like
Yeah.
before this interview, for instance, this is a small example, but hey, maybe it'll paint the picture for them. I had the option of, do I stay where I am, do the interview here, right? Figure out the location here, or do I drive back home and like do the interview from there? And so like mentally I was like, okay, well if I stay here, I can do this, this, and this. Essentially for me it was like, if I go home and do the interview, I'll um I'll still be able to do this or I'll be able to do that. And so I was like, okay, which one's gonna be better? And then I had to like include in that mental conversation I was having, I had to check in with my body too, because I was like, okay, if I leave right now, I also feel very rushed, right? And then I'm like gonna be trying to beat a deadline and then I'm gonna just be frazzled. And I don't wanna be in that energy before I do an interview because I don't wanna bring that energy to my guests, right? So I had to do that pros and cons list in my head and decide on that like pretty quickly because I didn't have like a lot of time to make that decision. But in the past I would have like pushed the issue and like went in the other direction. And that's something that like I do even for I have to because I have to make decisions for everything. I run Uprooted. There's nobody else here making decisions. So anytime I'm going to do something, I do have to like figure out a way to do that for myself. Like, all right, am I doing what's best for me? Am I doing what's best for Uprooted? Like, how am I drawing these conclusions? So I like that you shared that tool for sure because it's a useful one. It's going to be very useful for people on this journey, especially when you're thinking about what relationships to keep in your life and which ones need to be altered somehow.
Yeah, that motivating interview thing is, I think, just, it's really good to have, honestly. But I just wish people know and understand that, like, when we make those decisions, that we're making those decisions because we want to be, comfortable with whatever decision making that we make. And I know, like, making decisions is, like, really difficult and, like, really hard, especially if you don't practice making good decision making. So just think about it this way, like, is this gonna be okay? Or, just do something simple. Even write like a 1 2 1 2 and just look at the list too. But that's a really great skill to like practice.
Very, very. And it's like start small. Start with smaller decisions and then work your way up to more difficult ones. Just to give yourself time to like really practice. And there's the art of like making the decision and then executing on it, which is
Yeah.
like, okay, now I got to do this. So if you start small, it'll help you, and then you can gain the skill set of like, all right, do I have to have these awkward, uncomfortable conversations, right? And you can kind of like prepare for that as you're gaining these skill sets, for sure. So I did look at time and I want to make sure that I'm respectful of it. Y'all, we gave you a lot to think about in this interview, a lot to kind of unpack. Hopefully it is helpful, because that's always the goal. And where we like to leave off in our conversations and just the way that I like to think about the world is just, all right, well, we're only here for a short period of time. And while we're here, what is it that we're trying to accomplish or do, right? And it doesn't have to be big or small. So like the question that I like want to ask you now, within the theme of uprooting, right? We think of trees and all this stuff. I want to instead ask you what you want to reroot yourself in. So, what seeds do you want to plant, for yourself and for, to leave behind after you? And it can be either or.
I think, actually not I think, I know what
Okay.
I want to like leave behind is that like just leaving myself with patience. Like, and I say that because I realize over time that I project a lot and I feel like I'm over vocal in general.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like I do this because I'm always just trying to like get myself out. I'm busy, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I just realized that like letting that go and just planting more patience. Let me just be
Mm-hmm.
patient. Let me just be gentle to myself. Let me just speak to myself and be very soft and very delicate instead of being very hard and very like aggressive or like passive or whatever. And I do come off as that, but I'm just really, really stern and I'm really like concise on like what I want to do. And I just feel like, let me just give myself grace. Let me be patient. Let me just plant little like seeds. And I just feel like that my little oak tree is going to be strong. It's going to be elevated by how I like plant. So I think that it's
Mm-hmm.
also too like when we talked about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
what word do you want to talk about? Like what can define me? Kind, motivating. Same thing as how I would like to plant a tree.
Oh, I like that. That's good. So the legacy and like the what you're really rooting yourself is in the way that you approach life
Mhm.
and the quality of life that you are, trying to build. Like that tree
Mhm.
is going to provide you protection. It's going to provide you fruit. It's going to provide you shade when it's hot.
Maturity.
It's to get all of it. Okay, I love that. I love that. That's so good. I love that, y'all. This is the time too. I want to speak into that. I want to affirm you in that because I see it. I've seen your growth in terms of from the beginning of Clubhouse days right to now. And I've seen your willingness to be open and transparent, to have like the difficult conversations, to be held accountable, right? To have like I feel like when you operate in that kind of mode of you're willing to do the work, to hear feedback, and to like constantly strive for the better version of yourself, you're for sure going to leave that behind. And you have already planted those seeds because you wouldn't have been able to have this conversation with me if you didn't already do that work. And it's I'm starting to see that kind of as a theme a little bit, and maybe that's me choosing people way too, but I definitely see that growth in you, and I definitely see a softer side of Len, that I hope other people will get to meet and like experience for themselves. And like if you haven't felt it through this interview, just know that I see it, and I'm sure the people who actually get to see you and experience you see it as well. And I'm just really excited to see like how big that tree grows and like how far you can kind of spread that impact, with the people that you love and then the people that you are able to reach with your inspiration. So I'm rooting for you, sis.
Thank you. You gave me a reason why I'll need to root this oak tree.
Yes. Yes. I love that. I love that for you. I love that for us. I love that for everybody. So y'all, if you enjoyed this conversation, do me a favor, go ahead and hit subscribe. I don't understand why people don't subscribe. It's free. It's really free. Like I don't
It's
get it. I'm
easy.
subscribed to so much stuff. Like it's wild, right? Literally hit that subscribe, turn that notification on, like it, and share. Bro, sharing is caring. If this blessed
Mhm.
you, if you felt seen in this conversation, if like Len was pulling on your heartstrings, or maybe she was shining the mirror and the light in some areas you want to focus on, I want you to make sure you are sharing that. Share that in your group chat. Have a conversation about it. Put some comments down below if you have questions. If you're like, yo, I was interested in those topics you guys are talking about, but like, how do you actually implement these things? Ask us. Ask us. Like, put that in the conversation so we can continue to like really grow with each other and help people get to this point that we're at, because we want y'all to come along. Like we want to see our people healthy. We want to see like, yo, we learned this stuff, which shows you that it's possible, it's doable, and you can achieve. So y'all, please do us a favor, uproot your thoughts, subscribe, get with the program, share with your friends, and like. And again, thank you so much, Lynn, for coming by and dropping all this knowledge and sharing everything with us and
You're
being so open.
welcome.
I Yes, I appreciate you so much, sis. And for the rest of y'all, catch us on the gram, okay? Make sure you tap in with us. We will see you on another episode. Peace out, y'all.
Bye.
Y'all, what's good, Uprooted Fam? I really hope you enjoyed that last episode. And the way that you could let me know, hit that like button. Make sure you hit that like button. Please share, okay? If this blessed you, tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell another friend. And that's how we grow. So, again, like, share, and if you are not subscribed, what are you doing? It's free. It's free, y'all. Subscribe. Also, if you have not picked up your merch, hey now, say now. Go ahead and hit up uprootednetwork.com. Again, that is uprootednetwork.com. Get your merch, get all your podcast links there. And we're going to be rolling out programming pretty soon, and you're going to want to be registered. I'm just telling you, make sure you are following us and make sure that you are tapping in with your girl. Love y'all all so much. Have a blessed day.